welcome to Mike Montgomery, the ex-CEO of the Bitmap Brothers. Welcome. But you've had a long, illustrious career in games, haven't you? But it all started at Woolworths, didn't it?
Oh, blimey. Yeah, well, not in games. I mean, I was a manager for Woolworths originally in 1980. I can't remember now. 1970, actually 1970 something, 76, I think. Dates are just like, it's one of those things it's so long ago, you just can't remember these things.
So, but how did that lead into computers?
Well, it's when I was working at Woolies that actually I got bored with a job, and the ZX81 came out. So to be quite honest, I didn't sleep for a whole year.
Really?
I went to work and worked long hours, and then come home and taught myself how to program.
Hmm.
Um, and to hack games. not, not not hacking like it is nowadays, but it was just
Hmm.
just finding out how things actually worked.
Right.
One of the first things I wrote was a disassembler for code.
Hmm. And how did you go about learning it then? Did you buy any books, or what was the situation?
Yeah, I mean, I just bought a book on Z80 really, which was used for which was inside the ZX81 and the Spectrum.
Hmm.
It wasn't until I actually worked for Leisure Genius that I started working on other formats.
Right.
But it was all in assembler then, which actually still love. I wish I could do it now, but no one's going to pay me in this day and age, which is a shame.
So you must have progressed through to the Spectrum then at some point.
I'm sorry, repeat that one.
Sorry, you must have progressed onto the Spectrum from the ZX81 then.
Yeah, I mean, the ZX81, I suppose within a couple of months, the Spectrum came out, and which was a far better machine for the
Hmm.
ZX81. I mean, I had RAM packs for the ZX81, and I managed to decode the actual one. I think it was a one. I don't know, it been 1K memory, I suppose. Yeah, it was 1K, wasn't it? And
Yeah.
I actually decoded that and actually put it. I had a computer that actually had 17K in it, which was absolutely no good for game, for writing stuff on it, because no one else would have done it, because I physically changed the motherboard and changed the addresses and stuff like that.
Right.
So yeah, so and then the Spectrum came along. There was a little bit of a break on the Spectrum, because when I got it, I bought Jet Set Willie,
Oh yeah.
and then my friend also had a Spectrum, and we spent probably about 3 months just playing the first two levels. We never went further than that, but the idea was whoever can get the best score in two levels. Was it Jet Set Willie? Yeah, that was that the second one. I can't remember now.
Just well, it was the second one. Yeah, it was Money Miner, the first one.
Oh, Manic Miner. Sorry, I appreciate it. It was Manic Miner that we just played the first couple of levels, and we just phone each other up like 4 a.m. Say, "I've just cracked," taken another second off of it. And it was just good fun.
Yeah. Happy days. How did you get the job at Leisure Genius then? Because that was your first step into employment in games, wasn't it? Well, programming.
Well, yeah. I mean, I I used to buy a weekly magazine. I think it was PCW,
Hmm.
PC Weekly,
Yeah.
and saw an advert for programmers. And as I knew nobody else that's done programming, I actually didn't know if I was actually any good.
Hmm.
So I actually went for the interview, and at the end of the interview, they said, "Can you start Monday?" And I went, "No." And they went, "Why?" And I said, "Because I only come here to find out how good I am." And they said, "Well, I think you're good. If we're going to offer you a job to start Monday," and I said, "Well, I'm not interested." And
Hmm.
then they said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I've wasted your time, but I just needed to know, if I was in the
Yeah.
right direction." And then I went home and thought about it, and then my wife was working, and she said, "Well, why don't you you're bored where you are? Why not? It could be a good career change." So I phoned them up, And I said, how much you're paying? And when they told me, I thought, that's a lot less of money that I'm earning at Woolworths.
Right.
But in the end, after more thoughts, I said, yeah. So I gave my notes in at Woolies, and I started probably about 2 or 3 weeks later at Leisure Genius. And to be quite honest, the hours I worked was just, I used to go to work on a Monday and come home on a Saturday afternoon, sleep underneath the desk if I got any sleep. And by a year gone, I was earning more money I was earning at Woolies then, with because it was it was good, and just they didn't want to lose me really.
Yeah. What sort of things were you doing at Leisure Genius?
Well, Leisure Genius, we were doing board games, Cluedo, Cluedo and Mastermind, Scrabble, and Monopoly, of course. Monopoly. It was all the
classic
all the
ones.
same franchises, and so and we were working on then Leisure Genius. We were working on the C64 was the main platform, the Spectrum. There's another one that I always forget. Oh, I think we did. Well, no, we actually worked. We actually were programming actually on an Apple.
Oh, right.
Not an Apple. Sorry, Commodore. Oh, Commodore. A PET. Commodore PET.
Right.
And cross compiling. And then from that, because Virgin Games, obviously, they bought Leisure Genius out, which is another funny story, really, because the day I got there, sorry, not the day I got there, but I went to actually go them see, they wanted to see all the staff, and they sort of like an interview, I suppose. And of course, at that time I was lead programmer at Leisure Genius, and they said, "Oh, well, sorry, you can't be lead programmer here because we've already got one." And the Leisure Genius, the Virgin Games guys actually were a little bit upset that a new programmers had come in, and apparently, as I walked in, unbeknown to us, the lead programmer walked out.
Oh, right.
So I did become lead programmer.
Right.
And in the end, I was higher than the lead programmer eventually.
Yeah.
And then we were working on Spectrums. Amazon. That was the
Amstrad.
other one. The Amstrad. That
Yeah.
was the other one that we were working on. So I did versions of Scrabble for, I think, C64, the Apple PET, which I don't think ever got released. I did the QL, and what else? Oh, the MX, the Japanese thing, MSX.
Yeah, MSX. Yeah.
Yeah, the Dragon,
32.
and a few others I just can't remember now. It was all 8-bit machines, I mean, I know the QL was the first, almost the first. It was the first 16-bit, but it was really a little bit of an 8-bit machine, really, just
Yeah.
slightly better. So that's basically all. The 8-bit days, really.
That's where you met Steve Kelly, isn't it? As part of that job.
Well, actually, we met Steve Kelly actually at Leisure Genius,
Oh.
because he was working with Scion on the on Scrabble, and I think he did the Spectrum Scrabble as well. I'm not 100% sure on that one. As I say, it's a long time ago. That's where I met Steve Kelly, and my other ex-business partner, Eric Matthews. He did some graphics for Leisure Genius on Monopoly for us.
All right.
So that's where our friendship sort of started, and then we just went down the pub, and then we used to go down the arcades a lot, really.
Yeah.
And that's where the friendship and the business started, really.
And that's the start of the famous Bitmap Brothers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it must have been a massive step though, just to go it on your own.
Well, I suppose I suppose it was and it wasn't. We didn't seem to be to make it a massive step, if you like. I
Mm.
mean, we were working. I was working in Chelmsford at home. Steve was working in London at home, and Eric was working at home in London. So there were at that time there wasn't any overheads much at all. Actually, the only overheads was beer, probably, because and the train ticket for me to London. We used to meet up, probably
Mm.
once a week and exchange code and all that sort of thing. And we stuck out to get an advance on their first game, Xenon, which helped, paid us
Mm.
and well, that's it really for me, where it got to. It wasn't. It was much later on when it got expensive.
So, was Steve Kelly already working on a version of Xenon before you started the bitmaps?
Steve Kelly and Eric were working on the start. They'd started, started some of it,
Hmm.
on the ST, and then I came in and did the Amiga version,
Hmm.
and also helped out on the ST one eventually.
Right.
So
So it was published by Melbourne House, wasn't it? The first one.
yes, it was.
Yeah. How did you get that deal
Yes.
together? Did you just approach them and ask them if they would take it?
Well, actually, we now thinking about it, we started the company with a bank loan. We actually ended up. I don't know how many banks we saw in a day, but over quite a number of weeks until we got an unsecured loan enough to pay. Then we did get an advance because once we got the game running, so we had a demo. Then it was a case of taking it around to all the publishers.
Yeah.
And Masotronic were the ones that are really interested in it.
Right.
So it's very different to now. Well, it's not much different to nowadays. Actually, is the only problem is nowadays publishers expect a finished game rather than something that's got just a little bit of an idea and a bit of design.
Yeah, yeah. Well, your next game was published by Microsoft, wasn't it? So why did you switch to them?
Well, because with Mastertronic, they actually asked us to do a game that called Real Tennis,
Right.
which is where Speedball comes from a little bit. And we went off and we did the design. We did a lot of research into it. There's only, I believe, there's one court in Hampton Court, and well, King Charles played. He wasn't king then; he was Prince Charles. He was he actually played it. And then they turned around after we'd done all this work, and it was quite a lot of work. And they said, "Oh no, we changed their minds."
Oh,
And then
right.
we went and we did show them Speedball, but they weren't interested. But I mean, we showed it to John Cook at Microsoft, and he just like almost bit a hand off, if you like. It wasn't quite like that, but it was, and that's where the relationship.
So basically, Speedball started off as a tennis game.
Sort of, yes. Yeah, I mean, it was also. I mean, it was a beer session as well, because it was like just being done all that work, and when Mastertronic turned it down, it was a case of like, oh, this is the end of our world. We've put all this effort in and for nothing. Let's go down the pub, and have a few beers. And then we actually wrote the design on the back of a fag packet.
Right.
The fag packet open, and that was the basic design. And we only used a bit from Real Tennis on it. Really, it was the ideas of the some of the mechanisms came from that, and also came from pinball. And
Oh,
we
yeah,
were playing down the arcades a lot and stuff.
yeah.
Pinballs and arcade stuff. Yeah.
Hmm. It's I know at the time you've probably been asked this a few times, and there's not a lot of similarities really, but there was a film out, wasn't there, called Rollerball?
Rollerball, yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
did-
that I don't actually remember it having any influence on it at all. I think
yeah,
that was a case of, probably a journalist or something, or maybe even somebody at Microsoft, came up with it.
yeah,
Um, and I honestly can't remember. I don't even. I must have seen it, but I can't remember it actually being an influence
right.
at all.
Was it part of the deal when you went to Microsoft to get yourself into, the publicity?
Oh, number one.
Yeah,
That was the number one priority.
yeah.
Sod the game, you know. No, it was both of them, but it was a case of, it's like, we always use this energy that you don't go out and buy Michael Jackson. Sorry, you don't go out and buy uh, um, a Michael Jackson record. I can't think of one at the moment. Oh, blimey. You actually, the star is Michael Jackson, and people were buying Michael Jackson stuff. And it was the same that we wanted to have that same, because in most cases it was the publisher that took all the credibility,
Yeah.
for it, and the programmers and the team never got anything. And so we insisted, and Microsoft were really keen as well, really helped us on that. We went on various photo shoots which they paid for and actually did, and and it was like, well, that's what we wanted to do,
Yeah.
to make us pop stars, if you like,
Right.
or game stars. Game stars.
So where did you get the helicopter from in that famous photo?
Oh, the helicopter. Well, because obviously it was Maxwell's helicopter, which is part of
Ah,
the Mirror Group.
right, right.
We thought, well, it was actually our photographer said it would be really, if we could do something like this, and Eric and him and Mirrorsoft organized it for we were only allowed to have a limited amount of time when the helicopter wasn't in use, and we waited all day in the Mirror building, for waiting for him to actually land in the helicopter so we could get the pictures done.
Right.
But I think he was at Epsom races all day or something like that, and so when he actually landed, which was actually absolutely the best time ever, because we got the great pictures with, it was almost sunset type thing, so the lighting was absolutely perfect, and it really made good photography.
Were you actually, you know the story about Ultimate Play the game? They eventually became rare, didn't they? And concentrated on consoles and that sort of thing. Were you ever approached by any console companies just to specialize in their machines?
No, to be
No.
quite honest. We never got into consoles at all, really, apart from some ports. We tried very hard to work with, the console publishers. Nintendo was a complete waste of time, couldn't get anywhere near them. Obviously, the Xbox wasn't around,
Yeah.
it was the PlayStation. We did it and but it was also the cost. The cost of the development systems was so great, and when you're an independent company, it was just too much for us. We just couldn't raise the money to actually do it. You know,
Mm.
the the, the sales of games weren't, what we got as royalties was actually quite small as a percentage.
Yeah.
um, and it was a problem. Eventually, with Phil Harrison at Sony, this was probably PS3. I think he did actually offer us to lend us, some consoles, but we just couldn't do it at the time anyway.
Yeah.
Other things we're actually working on, so it was a real shame, really,
Mm.
with the consoles. So and that's why we went on and done Z on the PC, really,
Yeah.
because that was a direction that we were actually going in.
Well, speaking of Ultimate Play the game, so your next game was Cadaver. So were you a big fan of games like Alien 8 and Nightlaw and those sort of titles, the isometric?
Well, I think we were to an extent. We wanted to do an adventure game. Isometric for us seemed to for the adventure game work really well, and it was. I mean, Cadaver was originally called Annika after Annika Rice because she was in the she was doing what was that
Was
program?
it Treasure Hunt or something like that?
Yeah, where she was in the helicopter,
Yeah, Treasure Hunt.
which is basically a paper chase.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I don't know. I don't know if anyone does paper chases, but it's originally it was where somebody would run along and drop pieces of paper, and then people would try and catch them. Um, and Cadaver was a paper chase. It was that type of adventure. It was you go to one bit, do one bit, go to the next bit, and stuff
Mm.
like that. But it was good fun. It was good fun writing that.
Yeah. Next game, Xenon 2 Mega Blast. So I need to ask you about this. So how did you get access to the music? Because that was obviously a single, wasn't it, from Bomb the Bass?
Yeah, well, it was a case of River King Records. We were talking to them because we actually started Renegade Software with Rim Kim Records, so we had a good relationship with them. So
Hmm.
it was a case of, and it started off. We thought Bomb the Bass would be great for Xenon 2. So we actually went, to see them and spoke to the MD, and I can't remember his name now.
Hmm.
And said, look, and we just got this relationship where we could actually, use the music. And of course, it was, it, it, it was actually done. We re-recorded for the computer as well because we did the Roland version of it. We were the first 3D music to actually do, and it was actually featured on Tomorrow's World,
Oh,
and
was
he's
it?
actually on a BBC record somewhere. Tomorrow's World BBC record, and actually I've got all the original tapes in my loft from that recording.
So how did it work with Rhythm King then? So did they do the distribution for the game as well?
No, because it was still the distribution was still going through Microsoft as
Yeah.
the publisher and distributor. It was much later on when we started Renegade to be our own publisher, where it was a joint venture between Ribbon King Records and the Bitmap Brothers. Not the actual companies, but more we as directors we had 3 Ribbon King record directors and 3 Bitmap Brothers directors
I see.
of the company, and that's when we started to publish ourselves, publish other people, and then we got what was it, Mindscape to do the distribution for us.
Right.
Yeah, so all history.
Right, so on to, sorry, going through our list. There's so many games you've made. So Speedball 2, I mean, that's another classic game. How long did it take to develop compared to the first one?
Hang on, you're asking questions from when? What year? I'm too old to remember those sort of things. Um, yeah, it was a bit longer,
Yeah,
I, and we were right now that we were doing two projects at a time then because Cadaver was being done at the same time.
yeah,
So um, it was longer than the original Xenon, but I can't tell you how many years. It wasn't years, but how many months it was.
yeah,
Um, it, but then we would. It's a different game. There was a lot more in it than the original.
yeah. Hmm. Microsoft collapsed when Robert Maxwell died, and I mean that obviously caused a lot of companies like yourself, Vivid Image, Sensible Software, loads of other people, lots of problems. Was Renegade part of that solution? Did you create Renegade to get over that problem?
Uh, I think we actually started Renegade not to necessarily get over that problem, even though that was a huge problem for us because they
Mm,
owed us lots of royalties, and eventually I think we got paid 10p in the pound or something stupid like that. But
yeah,
we actually managed. We got all our rights back because we had a really good lawyer, so we got all our rights back for everything. So much so that actually we found a precedent case where the administrators actually had to pay us any royalties from day one of when it was in administration, which we got the full amount, but there wasn't that many sales at that point. But it was more a case of with Renegade Software, it was a case of that developers were getting such a poor deal. They were getting a small percentage of sales as royalties, and once the publishers have said, well, once we've recovered all our costs, then we start paying you. Doesn't matter, they didn't cover our costs. you
mm,
know Even though you got advances, but a lot of the time it didn't actually cover the full costs. So that's why we did with Renegade that we did deals where it was um, you were paid to do the development 100%, or certainly close to as much as we could, and then we actually, it was a profit share, 50-50 profit share, so it
mm.
was much more lucrative. I mean, Sensible will tell you, they made good money on it. Graph Gold made good money on it, and we did.
Right, excellent. How much freedom did they have? Could they just bring any game to you? And what was the deal there? Could you turn them down for a game if you didn't think it would sell? Let's say.
We had to be careful because there's a limited amount of money that we actually had. Yeah, so
Yeah,
therefore, I mean, if I remember rightly, we worked with uh, Graph Gold, Sensible Soccer, and an Australian company, and I can't remember their names now. Um, I can't even remember the game now. It was Flight of something. So it was a case of we had to be very careful. We would probably turn down quite a lot of games, but we just didn't
yes,
have the money to do it. But we
right.
were honest. You get a lot of publishers that will just look at games and not give you an answer and keep you hanging. It was well, it happened in later days with me, to me as well. But so we tried to be fair, and
Mm,
that was the point of Renegade, to be, you know, to it's almost like nowadays a lot, it's quite easier to do self-publishing and stuff like that, but where in those days it wasn't that easy.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
we were sort of better than the bad guys.
Well, moving on to Gods, because that was your first platform game, wasn't it? So, how did the idea for that come about?
It was down to Eric actually a lot on that one. I don't quite remember. It was a bit hazy. That one's a bit hazy for me. Apart from we did quite a lot of research into Greek mythology and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
we thought, and that we always had a policy where we wanted to do something different where we could,
Hmm.
and also to put a lot of research into something to make it not necessarily true, but a little bit more realistic, if you like. That it was based on Greek mythology a little bit with gods and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was a combination of all those things, really.
Yeah. How much of the market do you think Renegade had at the time? Because you were bringing out hit after hit, weren't you? Because you had Megalomania, Sensible Soccer, Fire and Ice, lots of titles like that.
I haven't got a clue. I mean, we were small fry compared to sort of like some of the other publishers.
Hmm.
Really, I think it was amazing that we did what we did with the amount of money that we had. We didn't have
Yeah.
a lot of money,
Hmm.
so yeah, it was good fun days.
I'm just flying through this list. It's a massive list. Magic Pockets. So that's another adventure game, wasn't it? But one with a bit of a difference.
Yeah, Magic Pockets was, and it's really funny because a lot of people didn't like it, and a lot of people love it.
Yeah.
I loved it. I think it was a good idea. It was another designer that we had brought in, and it was when he explained the game to us with this character that's got all these things in his pockets, it just like it really came together. It's good. It was a good fun game. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I enjoyed it. I like playing it.
Yeah, and it's really funny because it's some people go, oh, don't like that one, but it was either it's Marmite.
Yeah.
Yeah, you either love it or you hate it on that particular one, and we did really good sales on it, really. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Was the jump to 3D quite hard? Because I know a lot of companies had problems moving up to 3D engines and that sort of thing, didn't they?
Grenades collected. Grenades collected. Vehicle captured. Unit reporting. Over and vehicle captured. Territory taken. We're on our way.
Radar activated.
Territory taken. Unit grenades collected. Let's get them. Territory taken. Gotcha. Territory unit reporting. Let's do it. Yes, sir. Going in. Smoke in. Unit reporting. You got it. Help! Help! Vehicle captured. Vehicle captured. Okay, territory taken. Unit reporting.
Radar activated.
Moving in. Yes, sir. Let's get him. Yep, over and out. Grunts reporting. Okay. Yes, sir. Going in. Yes, sir. Let's do it.
Robot.
Yes, sir. Going in. Grunts reporting. Wipe out. You got it. Unit reporting. Here we go. Unit reporting. Let's...
Robot manufactured.
Well, I mean, that for us was, yeah, I mean, because Z was really the first 3D stuff that we had actually done. No, it wasn't. It wasn't really in 3D, was it? God. Yes, it was. It did have 3D elements in it.
3D elements, yeah.
But I mean, the biggest problem with Z is that, you know, it took us so long to write because originally we wrote it on the Amiga, and well, I had it running on the Amiga, and then of course the Amiga had actually disappeared overnight, and also the Atari, and then we sort of got to the point of actually almost finishing the game, and then the publisher, which was Renegade, funny enough, before we sold Renegade to actually Warner's, which actually did do the publishing. But it was a case of all of a sudden this CD-ROM came in, and everyone said you have to fill the CD-ROM, so that's where all the cutscenes came in, and that all that stuff was rendered into, you know, 3D rendered stuff and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I don't think we found it hard at all. It you know, we just employed the right people to actually do it for us in a way. I mean, I don't hate 3D. That's not true. But I hate working in 3D. And even as I'm in programming now, and every time I get a job, I say I don't do 3D. I know bits of it, but I'm no expert, and I don't want to be an expert.
There was a bike racing game that there was rumours about a bike racing game that was also in 3D.
Oh, that was Bike. It was just called Bike. Yeah, let's not talk about that one.
Okay.
But we spent quite a lot of time, and we just couldn't get the gameplay right.
Got you. Okay, okay.
It was just, yeah, if you can't get gameplay right, there's no point.
Node activated. Special activated.
Chaos Engine, another classic. It's a massive list of classic 16-bit games. This. Yeah. So where did that come from? Was it based on Gauntlet at all?
Yeah, of course it was.
Yeah.
That was what we were playing in the arcades at the time, so it had a huge influence on it. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%. I mean, it wasn't a Gauntlet copy, but it did have influences. You know, it was Gauntlet was on a coin-op machine, which was much more powerful than, you know, than than an Amiga or an ST.
Yeah.
But yeah. And it was also, we wanted to do something that was a co-op type game as well.
Yeah.
Which Gauntlet was, actually,
Yeah,
thinking about it.
Yeah.
But it was, we did want to do some co-op stuff, so it fitted it completely, really.
Yeah, that was a brilliant game. Case Engine 2, that took a while to get developed, didn't it? So what was the story behind that? Was it?
Layer activated.
Gas Engine 2 was a total disaster
Was it?
in sales. I think we sold 4,000 units,
Oh, right.
and I threw boxes of them away. And I wish I had them now, because they're selling for a fortune, more than any other game that we've actually done. It took a bit of time, but it was a case that we were working on 2 other projects at the time,
Yeah.
and to be quite honest, we should have canned it. Once the Amiga market disappeared. It was a brilliant game, don't get me wrong. It was absolutely brilliant, and it's just a shame it was just the wrong game, well, the right game at the wrong time, if you like.
Yeah.
Because when Commodore went bust, the whole market literally disappeared overnight.
Yeah. Well,
And of course, then the PlayStation 1 came out as well, and of course that took all the sales.
Going back to Z again, I mean, that was a groundbreaking game. Well, you've had many groundbreaking games, but that was pretty much one of the first ever real-time strategy games, wasn't it? I mean, it even preceded Command and Conquer, didn't it?
Yeah, well, it came out virtually the same time as Command and Conquer, and actually the lead programmer on Z actually left us and went to work for Westwood on Command and Conquer. So I'm sure there's some stuff in Command and Conquer that we did in Z, and I ended up being lead programmer and finishing the game off in the end. And yeah, but there was another game out, wasn't there, from Blizzard? I can't remember. It was Star something.
The StarCraft and World of Warcraft.
StarCraft, I think, was it?
Warcraft,
was that not?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a RTS, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I mean, it was one of the. I don't think there was any RTS. There must have been either. I mean, and if you think about it, on the Spectrum, Ant Attack was an RTS, really, with Ants to an extent. So it's just a case of, it's a pigeonhole as an RTS, isn't it? That it goes into a pigeonhole. There's a few games that are very similar, and some RTS is quite different. Good fun. And it seems to me like, I don't know if this is me, but reading some of the the press at the moment, it seems like RTS seem to be coming back in a big way. It's I don't know. I can't think of any names at the moment, but I've just been reading that this RTS is coming out and this RTS is coming out. In fact, the lead programmer went to Westwood. He started his own company and he did 8-Bit Army,
right.
And he's just about to release I don't know what it's called. Is it 9-bit Army or something like that? I can't remember now. But you know, but it seems like everyone else is as well. So this is the age of RTS this year.
How much? I mean, you always spent a lot of time trying to get the gameplay just right, and a lot of people thought that some of your games are quite difficult, like Xenon, as an example. What do you think? Do you think you were just better playing games than those people? Because I thought it was all right. I could get quite far in it myself.
It was a problem. It was a bit of a problem. I mean, we were quite. We didn't put any cheats in our games at all to make things easy. We just wanted people to play it how it should be played. Strangely enough, our Z, which was called Z in America, was actually toned down for the American market. So it's. I don't think it was hard at all. I mean, the whole thing, the whole premise of Z was built around multiplayer.
Yeah.
And everything is totally symmetrical. So nobody, not like some of the other RTS games, no one has actually got an advantage.
Yeah.
You know, it was totally symmetrical. And I don't think it was hard. It's like any game, isn't it, really? You just got to play it.
Yeah.
Yeah, put up with it.
How did the design at the company work, especially in the early days? I mean, I know a lot of it was down the pub on the back of a beer mat, but was there a structure to it? Did you all just come up with ideas at the same time, or?
Well, most of the design was down to Eric Matthews and Steve Kelly, and then with me putting my oar in, if you like. There was no. In the 8-bit days and the 16-bit days, to be quite honest, there was no structure for that sort of stuff. We just got on with it.
Yeah.
You know, it's and our philosophy was we want to write games that we want to play, really.
Yeah.
That's probably why they're all hard, because we want them hard.
You seem to have a really good relationship with all the magazines as well. There was a lot of attention given to you.
Yeah, well, I mean, because we treated them, we treated them well. We were polite and stuff like that. We used to go over to ECTS, and we used to take some of the journalists out. We used to take Six Flags roller coasting the day before, and we were just like, and we were just happy guys, and they were happy. It's just and friends, and we were friends with a lot of them. To an extent, yeah.
Yeah. So after Z, what happened to you? Were still going for a long time, weren't you? Still creating games, and again, I've got this massive list in front of me. How do you see those years, the later years of the bitmaps?
Well, it became very hard, to be quite honest, because as an independent company where we were actually we were paying for the development out of our own pockets, which was all their royalties, and then Still Soldiers went out. We got a pretty good. Well, we lost one deal with it, but we signed another deal. Then in those days, all your royalties all came in the first week, really.
Yeah.
In the first week sales, and with Still Soldiers, the company that the publisher went bust, so we never got any royalties. So, and similar with World War II. Didn't really get any royalties off of it because we actually got shafted.
Oh, right, did you?
Yeah, so it was at that point that I had to shut the company down because all my personal money had gone that I'd actually made over the years.
Yeah.
I was broke, totally broke.
Well, you carried on in games for a long time. I mean, are you still doing that at the moment? Are you still working in games?
Yeah, I'm working for Stainless Games on the Isle of Wight.
Oh, right. I had no idea.
I've been working for them for 4.5 years now.
Ah, right.
So,
I was talking to Fergus actually the other day.
oh, were you?
Yeah, I like him. He's a nice bloke,
Yeah,
isn't he?
yeah, yeah. Yeah. I only go in the office. Well, I go in the. I go in the. I'm because I mean I'm 68. I should be retired, and so I don't work Fridays now, and I got quite a lot of holiday, but I do, and because of my wife's condition, I want to work at home most of the time. I was one of the only before the pandemic, one of the only person that was allowed to work at home all the time. But I do go into the office at least once a week, and sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, depends,
Yeah.
what I'm working on and what I'm doing. But I can't tell you what I'm working on, so don't
Oh,
ask.
no, no. I'll ask. Have you got any really big regrets about something you maybe should have done at the bitmaps?
Got into consoles, and that's it. To be quite honest, yeah. Well, we should have stopped. We should have stopped. CAS Engine 2. Uh, can that. We should have probably canned Bike a bit earlier than we actually did. But
Hmm.
I think our biggest regret was not getting on consoles.
Yeah.
Um, I think we would have been great at consoles with our style of games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it it was almost like a closed shop,
Yeah.
and it's almost like people think that the Bitmap Brothers are arrogant, and because of all this publicity we got, we're not arrogant at all.
Hmm.
And I think it did. I think in some cases that's why we didn't get in consoles.
Right.
I'm not 100% sure, and I can't tell you,
Yeah.
that's definite, but I just got a feeling that was partly to do with it.
Okay. Well, I mean, the games you've made on, Amiga and ST, and they're absolute classics. I mean, you can't look at the history of Amigas and STs and 16-bit in general. I mean, you dominate it, completely dominate it, don't you? It's a massive legacy. Have you got any favorite games that you made?
Cadaver, I really enjoyed working on.
Hmm.
Zed, I really enjoyed working on. Even though I wasn't lead program all the time, only for the last year or something like that.
Yeah.
Still Soldiers, I really enjoyed because I did quite a bit of the design on that as well.
Hmm.
To be quite honest, all of them,
Yeah.
they even though we had people working for us, I mean, I was involved with every programming, every single game that we actually did.
Yeah.
For one way or another, apart from being running the place as well.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's it's really difficult to say one particular game. Actually,
Yeah.
all of them.
Right. Brilliant. Well, thanks for taking your time to have this chat, Mike. It's been absolutely brilliant. I've really enjoyed it.
No problem at all.
All right. Well, you take it easy, mate. Thank you again.
Yeah, I can have me dinner now. Oh, I've got to cook it now. Oh my God, what's going on? All right, mate. Catch you later.
See you, mate. You take care.
Thank you.
Bye bye.